Welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio, where we kind of keep it chill. We're trying to keep positive, Relaks, without the X, because we believe in positivity. And yeah, it's your boy, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way, only here on Real Talk. That's right. Hey, if you want to get in touch with me, all you got to do is simple. Hit me up on our numbers, 07852 473 473. That's right. You can always feel free to call me up. Let me know if you guys have any opinions or thoughts on that matters. And yeah, we'll be talking about a lot of things today. A lot of interesting things happening in the UK, with care homes and all of that institutes having issues, before the pandemic. And then we're going to be talking about, Boris Johnson. Yeah, he did get married today. Yeah, he got married with Carrie Simmons at Westminster Cathedral. So yeah, there's topics about that, while we're going on along in the show. We'll be talking about all those things. But right now, like I said, if you have anything you want to say or you want to do, feel free to call me up on those numbers. And also don't forget to download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And yeah, that's also, check us out on our social media pages. We're pretty big on social media. That's right. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and all of that. So make sure to check us out on those platforms. But with that being said, though, diving into the topic at hand with what is going on right now. Like I said, the whole thing that is going on is the British exports worth billions have faced EU tariffs since Brexit. That's right. That is what's happening right now. We're having issues. There's been a lot of tensions, especially with the whole Brexit situation in the UK. EU wasn't totally happy about that. They were not totally on board. And what happened is inadvertently it caused a lot of problems for the UK, because we thought, okay, this is the situation, EU is going to back off, but no, they are causing a lot of problems. There's a lot of tension going on, although it doesn't seem like it. There is a rising tensions between the UK and the EU. It started off with all the whole Brexit situation, and then it led on to these checkpoints, and then we had issues, with the whole vaccine rollouts and the problems like that. And right now there is, the biggest issue is that British exports worth billions of pounds have faced tariffs on trades with the EU since Brexit. And this is all, according to an analysis of the official EU statistics. That's right. So despite the tariff-free deal agreed, with the EU, a study by the University of Sussex found up to 3.5 billion pounds of British exports had taxes applied. So that's a lot of money. There's a lot of tariffs applied to those. So this actually accounts for at least 10% of the British goods exports to the EU. So some firms said that due to the complexity of claiming zero tariffs, or said they plan to reclaim the fees later. So for exporters, maintaining this whole zero tariff thing under the post-Brexit deal is not automatic. There is also problems like that that needs to be resolved. And with issues like this, there has been on custom declarations that from January rather, we've had to accompany every export to the European Union. So an analysis by the University of Sussex Trade Policy Observatory used European customs data from these declarations. So yeah, the figures indicated that between 2.5 billion pounds to 3.5 billion of British exports faced a tariff in the first 3 months of 2021. That's right. There is a huge amount of tariffs like that being involved into all of this. And it did cause a massive problem, because we have to realize these are losses. These are big, big losses. And it's going to affect our economy even more. That's right. All of these things. So it adds up to the whole problem at hand. So the European Commission confirmed that according to data collected by its custom authorities, 2.5 billion euros of eligible UK exports did not use the zero tariff agreement. So they also said that, Professor Gasirek, the trade expert at the University of Sussex, said tariff-free trade is only tariff-free if firms not only meet the rules of origin criteria, but also deal with the necessary bureaucracy and paperwork. And he went on to say, a lot of these things related, like what this analysis, it shows that in the first quarter, around 27% of trade that could have entered tariff-free did not do so. So 27% of these things that could have been traded without any tariffs, without any issues, have not. And this mounts concern from a lot of people and a lot of authorities as well, wondering what is going on. Why is there such a huge tariff, especially during the start of 2021 when this happened? And he went on to say, Michael Gossier, he said, in some sectors and some firms, this will no doubt improve, but it reflects the reality that leaving, the EU has imposed real cost on these firms with long-term implications for trade and production. So the data covers all British exports to the EU in January and February, and some reporting nations in March. So individual businesses and groups, has said recently to the media that where millions of these pounds of tariffs had been paid. And this is a mounting concern. People want to address this, and they're saying, it's difficult for a lot of us to cope up. And how are we even going to have the capability to cope up from something like this when you impose this much of heavy tariffs? So most of this put down to the complex arrangements, for claiming this zero tariffs, difficulties over the re-export to the EU of goods processed in Britain, and an expectation that some of these fees could eventually be recovered. But some of the world's, biggest multinationals have paid 7 billion figure tariff bills. So imagine a bill like that, where it's not six figures anymore, it's seven. It goes to the billions. Yeah, that is just a huge, huge amount. So a classic example, if you think about this, is all a classic car repairer, for instance. The classic car mechanic, showed tariff bills of hundreds of pounds for car parts for rare vehicles sent to Hungary, which could not be valued, and so were hit with a tariff by French customs. And they went on to, this is just an example of, how much of a big issue this is. And the Trade Policy Observatory has tried to quantify the effects of these extra trade barriers with the EU on different sectors. Although exports began to recover from a massive drop in January over the quarter. So the observatory calculated that of the worst affected sectors, textiles saw exports fall 63%, and food suffered a 36% drop, and the automotive industry saw exports down 20%. That's right. So other advanced manufacturing industries have been affected, and according to an analysis which seeks to isolate the impact of the Brexit barriers from the impact of the pandemic, all of this is with concern, and it's problematic with what is going on right now. And other advanced manufacturing companies have not been affected, and all according to the analysis which seeks to isolate the impact of post-Brexit barriers, from the impact of the pandemic. And the government spokesperson, they even went on to say, a vast majority of traders have adjusted well to our new trading relationship with the EU. And the HMRC, continues to work closely with exporters to ensure they correctly apply rules of origin requirements and are aware of their right to refunds. So the unprecedented zero tariff, zero quota deal that they've secured with the EU allows businesses to trade smoothly, while we can also regulate in a way that suits the UK economy and our businesses, and doing in a more innovative and very effective kind of way without being bound by the EU rules. So all this analysis has shown that in the early months of the deal there were there's a lot of market difference between EU nations in the extent of use of the free trade deal for imports of British goods. So data from what is known as preference utilization of the British exports to Germany shows rates well below half in January and February at 42% and 44% respectively. So the trade deals have been used more according to the data from exports to France, reaching 77% in March. So preference of this whole utilization rates, or the PURs, measures the extent to which this tariff preference provided by a particular trade deal are being used by imports and exports of either side. So European Commission source stressed that overall the use of this deal was in line with the first month of other free trade deals, and that it would take some time to assess the impact. And UK government's minister told Parliament last month that they would be releasing their equivalent data for EU exports into Great Britain very shortly. So there is, just some of the issues with imports and exports right now in the UK. And, it just shows that this is the kind of barriers that we are facing at the moment. And this causes a lot of massive rift between the UK and the EU. With the Brexit situation, there's going to be heavy tariffs applied, and it's going to be inconsistent. That's what a lot of them are saying. Although it's supposed to be a zero tariff, what's happening is they're being charged massive amounts, and it is baffling, and people are not quite happy with the way the situation is being handled. And yeah, this is just causing a lot of concerns at the moment, and people are talking about all of these things. Hopefully they can find a way that it can be resolved. But with the way the situation is going on, we don't really know exactly what is going on for sure. Hopefully, on top of the whole COVID situation going on in the UK, this is just another pitchfork in the road right now, is what I'd like to say. And considering all of these things, there has been, like I said, concerns with this whole checkpoints, and people have been irked by it, and they're saying how difficult it is, these border checkpoints, and then now we have trade deal problems. So it just goes to show why the UK right now is dealing with countries like Australia, where there is more, it's more relaxed, and there's a way to benefit for both parties. Is the situation, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, this is just crazy, with what is going on. Hopefully they can find a way to resolve all this. They can find some kind of a resolution. And this is just not going to be another pitchfork in the road. Let's see how it goes, though. Hopefully they can find a way to manage all of this. And with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the things that is going on right now in the UK. And yeah, one of the most pressing things is in the UK right now, there's the early stages of a third wave possibly happening. Yeah, that is something important right now. I mean, you can always hit me up with your thoughts about that. Hit me up on those numbers, 07852 473 473. Feel free, to call me up and let me know what your thoughts on that particular matter. And yeah, also don't forget to check us out on our social media pages. Like I said, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. We're all on all of those major platforms. And also don't forget, you can check us out on our webpage, which is relaxradio.net. So yeah, make sure to check us out on that because we have a lot of interesting content as well going up on that as well. And yeah, getting back to the topic at hand, like I said, UK is right now facing a possibility of a third wave stage. So what is going on? There's been signs, though, that the UK is in the early stages of a third wave of coronavirus infections. And a scientist advising the government has said all of these things, and he's discussed about this particular thing. And Professor Ravi Gupta from the University of Cambridge said that although new cases were relatively low, the Indian variant had fueled exponential growth. So although there's not been as much cases as it was in the beginning of the year, it was crazy. The wave was just ginormous. There was a lot of problems and a lot of infection rates, a lot of people going to hospitals. And right now, although we don't have something similar like that, he said that the COVID restrictions ending in England on the 21st of June should actually be postponed because there's been exponential growth of this Indian variant. And yeah, Environmental Secretary George Eustace said the government could not rule out a possibility of a third wave, and they couldn't even rule out a delay to the planned lockdown easing because they're not quite sure as of yet 100%, whether we can do this or not is the question, is the concern. There's been a lot of concerns regarding this. And business leaders have also discussed about all these things, have warned of the impact of any change to the proposed dates. So on Sunday, the UK reported more than 3,000 new COVID infections for a fifth day in a row. Like I said, with matters regarding this, there has been amounts of people getting infected comparative to what happened actually in the beginning of the year when we had their second lockdown happening. It's not as much as that, but the cases are serious to the point where, we can't even be talking about it as a joke. It is something that is, of real pressure. And it's a very big magnitude, the gravity of this whole situation, where there is a possibility of a third wave. Because right now, the Indian variant, although it's not as big as we'd like to think of it, it is fueling an exponential growth. And scientists are concerned, and they're saying there is a possibility that a third wave could come. And this is one of the things, Professor Gupta from the University of Cambridge wanted to discuss. And business leaders have also been warned of the harmful impact of any changes to the proposed dates. So on Sunday, the UK reported more than 3,000 new COVID infections for a fifth day in a row. So prior to this, the UK had not surpassed that number since the 12th of April. And Professor Gupta said that the UK was already in a third wave of infections, and at least 3/4 of cases were the new variant identified in India. Right now, he's saying, that although it's not as bad as it was, but it is fueling. There's been a lot of these cases. Like, for instance, we have places like Glasgow. We got Glasgow right there. We got the Bolton region right there. We got Blackburn. All of these places, have a number of infections and a significant number of infections of the Indian variant, the COVID variant. So this is just, an example of why he has suspicions and why right now they're trying to discuss, with regards to a possibility of a third wave occurring. And yeah, he also went on to say, that of course the number of cases are relatively low at the moment, and always start with low numbers of cases, because that's just grumble in the background, and then become very explosive. So it's all of a sudden it hits you slowly and then all at once. So that's the key right here, is that what we're seeing here is the signs of an early wave. So he said, though, that although this is actually happening, the number of cases are relatively low at the moment, and the number of people who've been vaccinated in the UK mean that the wave would probably take longer to emerge than the previous one. So there is going to be a wave, but it's not going to be as big as you'd like to think, because right now, with the number of cases relatively low and the number of people getting vaccinated, it shows, that this is, he says, okay, this is the probability that this might happen, but at the same time, it's not going to happen anytime soon as we'd expect, because of the number of people getting their vaccines, and they're getting vaccinated. So there's some form of protection right now. And yeah, he went on to say there may be a false sense of security for some time, and that is the major concern. That is, what they're worried about, and they hope that this is not something, that they're afraid of some kind of, this is very alarming with the number of cases. Like I said, they're afraid it's not some kind of false alarm where they say, oh, a third wave is going to happen. They're saying it's likely to happen, because this is how every wave started. This is how it began. There was just a relatively few number of people infected, and the next thing you know, a lot of people. So what he's trying to say is, rather, Professor Gupta is trying to discourage people from going out on the 21st of June, and discouraging the government and asking them to postpone it and make sure, we can put it on some other date. And if we do, this is, just another thing that they can get through. And right now, the cases, like I said, it's going on and on and on, and it's a big problem, and it's of concern. And it is very difficult for the country's situation. Like, a lot of these businesses and places right now are struggling, and they say if you postpone this any longer, what is going to happen is it's going to affect the economy, and we're going to struggle even more, is what they're trying to say. And just thinking about it, the final stages of the government's roadmap for lifting the lockdown would essentially mean removing all limits, all sorts of limits, and that's going to be a problem, is what we have to understand. And how many people can meet? It's going to be unlimited indoors or outdoors. That's the whole plan. They want to get rid of all of this, but Professor Gupta, a member of the government's new and emerging respiratory virus threats advisory group, or the NERV-TAG, said ending restrictions should actually be delayed, and by a few weeks, while we gather more intelligence, more data on this. So if you look at the cost and benefits of getting it wrong, I think it is heavily implied in favor of delay. So I think that's the key thing, is what he's trying to encourage. He's saying, okay, this is the problem right now. We don't get it. People don't understand that the problem is bigger than just businesses. What is the problem is, if we get into another third wave, what will happen is lockdown will become inevitable, and the number of cases will rise again, and that will put a strain on our country, on our health force, on the people, on the mindsets of the people, on the workers, on the businesses, and it's going to cause another chaos. It's going to be chaos. So he is saying, okay, postpone it a little bit longer, just so we can control and get this matter in order, is what he's trying to encourage. So Kate Nichols, chief executive of the UK Hospitality, said that it would be devastating for the sector essentially, if they were not fully able to open in June, with many hospitality venues currently operating at 60% capacity because of social distancing rules. And she said some businesses were hemorrhaging cash, and a delay would push them closer to the cliff edge of business failure. And it's understandable also, when you look at it from that point of view, on the periscope, on the spectrum, it shows, yes, and on one side of the spectrum, this is the problem. We know businesses will collapse if we don't make sure, we open up on the 21st. But at the other side of the spectrum, what he's talking about is the long term. Right now, if we do open, what will happen is it'll give rise to more cases, and that inevitably will cause the country to go into another lockdown, and it will be even worse. So right now they're functioning at 60. If this lockdown doesn't happen, if it just keeps on going like this, and on the 21st, we make sure we remove all kinds of restrictions, what will happen is 60%. After that, yeah, we'll get back to 100% for just a short time. But then once a significant number of cases arises again, it's going to cause another lockdown. And with that, businesses will close. And again, it will be back to 0%. And that is even worse. So that's the kind of point, that we have to understand, that although there are two sides of the tail, what we have to understand is right now the big part is we have to be careful. We have to tread on, we are treading on waters that is very dangerous at the moment. We got to make sure that we stay safe. We got to proceed with caution. And she went on to say, it's Greg Parnley also went on, the chief executive of Live Music Trade Association, said the whole sector from festivals to small venues actually was completely geared up for a return from the 21st of June after being closed for more than a year. And he said the government's series of trial events had shown music events can be held safely with almost no COVID impact. So there's no reason to keep all of this. There's essentially no reason, to keep everything locked down, is what they're saying, and to keep this going on any longer. So Mr. Eustace also went on to say, all these things that have been going on, and the government saying that they're saying, okay, we can make sure to open these music festivals, we can make sure to open all these concerts, because we're going to be following regulations. It's not going to be a major impact like that, but some kind of impact is still going to happen. There is something that could happen. I understand businesses need to keep running again. The country cannot live in fear. We have to make sure we move forward, but at the same time, is it worth getting the whole situation into another lockdown? Is it going to be worth when the whole health factor, the whole health sector rather, gets into a struggle? That's something that I'd like to debate on. And in case you guys have any thoughts on that, hey, you can always hit me up and let me know. The numbers are 7852473. That's right. You can always feel free to hit me up and call me on those numbers. So, hey, if you have any thoughts like that, you can always hit me up and let me know. Would you like it if another lockdown happened? If we do proceed as we are proceeding right now, what's going to happen to the country overall? And and also, taking a look at all the timetable for the relaxing of the COVID measures, it's varying across the UK. It's not all at the same time. So the Scottish government, they are planning to lift restrictions on the 7th of June, while in Wales, there is due to be a review on the 3rd of June. So in Northern Ireland, some measures have actually been relaxed on the 24th of May, and the next review will be due on the 10th of June. So a final decision on whether, restrictions will be lifted in England will be reached on the 14th of June. So that's the first 2 weeks of June. That's when they're going to come to a decision and to a point where they will decide, okay, are we going to do this like this? Are we going to step up and make sure that we continue to keep the country on lockdown? Because if we are, we should be able to handle the risks. We should be able to minimize the loss and the risk as well. So this is just, some of the things that the government right now is processing, and they're doing all of what they can. And there has been, like I said, data that shows. Now, this is the thing. COVID started, we didn't have any kind of data. We didn't have any kind of information. We didn't know this is something that's going to happen. And it's going to be to such a scale, where it will consume the whole world. And the whole world right now is going through this pandemic. And the whole world did go into a lockdown, into a standstill. And right now, we are, 1.5 years later, fast forward to the whole situation, we are at the point again where we have information. Maybe not enough, but we still have information, and we know this is what's going to happen if we continue going down the path of if we continue going down and opening restrictions, when we know very clearly there is another variant out there, and that is also causing another significant amount of cases. So this is the things, that they have to consider, and they have to think about when they are going to open up the country, when they open their borders again, and when they open completely in restrictions. So it's going to happen. So let's see, what the government comes up on and what they can think of at the matter, particularly with this point. And hopefully, it can be something that will avoid any major incidents and any major problems, and they can lower the risks of a possible losses of life or people getting sick. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully they can do something about it. And with that, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We were talking about a lot of things going on right now in the UK. And for one instance, we were talking about how the COVID situation in the country, there's possibly another third wave coming up. And this is just, this mounts for concern actually with the government and a lot of people, they should start really realizing, okay, this is the situation. It is going to get worse before it can get better. So we got to make sure that we play our part and we try to be safe. And right now, military medics, though, have been very proud as jab duties have been ending right now in Belfast. Yeah, that's right. So military medics are withdrawing from Northern Ireland's frontline fight against COVID-19 after ending their duties. So about 100 armed force personnel had been working at the massive vaccination center in Belfast, the SSE Arena. And they went on to say, Air Marshal Sean Reynolds of the RAF, he went on to say that he's very proud of what they've achieved. And that is 85% of all vaccination at the SSE, all right, have been administered by armed force personnel. So earlier this year, the military was also deployed in some local hospitals. So in a couple of these local hospitals, there's a lot of military personnel actually involved as well. And in total, more than 500 armed forces ranging from Navy, from the military, from the Air Force have been involved in responding to the medical emergency, the health emergency in Northern Ireland over the last 12 months. And that is namely the coronavirus pandemic. And those based in Great Britain have been between shifts stationed at Aldergrove in County Antrim. So right now, for more than 2 months, or at least 2 months rather, the situation that has been going on at the beginning of 2021, armed force medics have been working actually alongside all of these nurses and doctors, at 3 local hospitals, the Ulster City and the Atrium Arena. So more lately they've been deployed at the SSE Arena. And they've been administering an estimated 100,000 jabs, the vast majority of the doses given on site. So most of the jabs that they do give have been given on site. So dressed in blue scrubs, they've been blended in with the NHS staff unnoticed by the public. And when they've kept a very low profile because, they're very aware of the sensitivities, especially said the Army, the Air Marines, the AM Reynolds, rather, was talking about all of this. So when asked about how they can help, they said, hey, we're going to help you. So this is just serving the country, the overall country right now. And this is something that we need to do. And Lieutenant Corporal Leah Clayton Smith had been in the Army for 4 years and is normally stationed in Aldershot in England. So right now, after working alongside nurses in London Hospital last winter, she then found herself sent a vaccination duty in Belfast. So she just said, that you're just told to go there and then you just go. You don't ask questions. And they worked very hard right now. And they hope, that people have actually enjoyed working with them because, the situation, like I said, is for them working alongside civilians is also it's a very different experience. We're all, like I said, it reminds me of a quote from a movie, actually, where we say, they're all in this together, where we're literally all in this together. Yeah, shout outs to High School Musical, the movie right there. Yeah, terrible. But anyways, that is, that's a very fitting line. If you think about it, the whole country is, raising up that important note. And that note is that we as a country, although, in the beginning, we say we were together and all that, right now we are even more closer to each other than before this whole pandemic. And I'd like to think, and it's in a way, the pandemic has brought a lot of people together and realize, how much value life is and, how valuable life is and how much we have to take responsibility for, for the situation and the actions and how accountable we are for what we do. And this is just, all of them talking about all of these things when it comes to the health force and the Army and the Navy. They just discuss all of these matters, concerning right now when it comes to these pressing kind of matters. And it's just great to see, our armed forces, they're not only used as tools, for, to go for war or to, do all of these things where they're deployed into countries to work as this and so and so. They are also, important for things like, when it comes to situations like this, the Army also plays a very, very vital role. The forces, when it comes to the forces, the Air Force, the Navy, all of them play a very vital role with this whole, situation going on. And this is just, another thing to be proud of especially with our armed forces. It's very proud to see that, that they are actually working, and they are making sure right now, that they get all the people, as much people as they can, vaccinated. Is just astounding work by them. And yeah, that's just, something going on. And it just, like I said, all of these things that is going on is crazy right now. And yeah, the situation is easing up, but there has been a possibility of a little bit of rise in cases of the Indian variant. But that's also something, hopefully, that they can combat, and they can make sure to bring down the number of cases and try to address as soon as possible. And yeah, talking about things, not related to COVID, we're going to be talking about, how homes are said to be heated by sewage plants in the future. Yeah, this is all a part of the net zero emissions. Yeah, so waste heat from these data centers and sewage works may keep many people warm in future low carbon Britain. So yeah, if you are looking to get warm and we're trying to look for alternatives, we're trying to get reduce the amount of electricity we use and all of that. Well, it's going to be sewage heat from now on. I mean, that is, of course, we think, oh, sewage, it's going to smell, it's going to stink, it's going to be terrible. But then we have to look, if we're going to look for greener alternatives, this is just another reason, this is just another avenue that we have to explore or not. And yeah, this is very important right now. So heat from these industries and incinerations could also be captured and piped to homes, hospitals, schools, and offices. So the warmth may also be sucked out of rivers and the sea and from old coal mines, and using these heat pumps, which work like fridge but in reverse. So instead of cooling, what it's going to do is it's going to get the heat. It's going to take out all this heat from these things and make sure, you get warmed up. And a fifth of the heat needed for the buildings could come from the so-called district heat networks, is what government advisors are saying right now. And these are all these grids, of pipelines laid under the city streets, convey warm water generated at centralized locations by low carbon technology. So this is all, like I said, future steps towards the greener UK and the greener Britain right now that we are trying to look forward to. And since, the whole COP26 thing going on in that situation, this is just a part of the steps that the UK is implementing. We are taking it seriously. We are taking global warming seriously, the climate change situation seriously. So this is just, some of the things that we are going to be doing at the moment. So far, debate has been focused on the battle between individual air source heat pumps or hydrogen heating for people's homes. So Chris Stark from the government's Advisory Climate Change Committee said that it's really important to get district heating into discussions. It's so appealing in these population-dense cities, and it's the best answer for conservation areas because it offers a low carbon solution for housing, where it would be difficult or very expensive for that matter to upgrade the fabric of the building itself. So another, like I said, this is just an alternative that they're planning to do to help with generating heat and all of that. So district heating networks like this are common in Scandinavia, where many are fueled by scraps from timber industries or municipal waste from people's homes. So this is called, the coal mine heat, what they are trying to do. And Mr. Stark also went on to say that each town and city start planning and zoning its own heat decarbonization. So yeah, the sooner we get on with it, the better, is what he's saying. So he says he expects £20 billion to be invested into district heating by the time 2030 hits. So flooded, abandoned coal mines might also prove a useful source of heat, is what he's also saying. And London has already opened the first stage of a heat network harvesting warmth from all of this tube. So the CCC is urging the government in its forthcoming heat and building strategy to provide multi-year funding for district schemes. So this is just, they're saying right now, this is the options that we are laying, and we need this much of investments. With the moment right now, the momentum not going as well as we'd like. This thing, it seems like it's just going to be something that they will talk about, but they're not really going to take action on until a later date. So but although we should be taking this very seriously at the moment. So right now in CCC's modeling, about 18% of homes will be warmed by district heat by 2050. So yeah, that's 18%. That's a lot of households. So it's an immense challenge, for the UK's fledgling districts, their heat industry, which currently supplies just 2 to 3% of the heat. So what's more, that is almost all provided by large boilers running on gas, and these will have to convert low carbon sources to make the plan work. So people may have to fit new radiators up to a fifth bigger so the heat system can work at a more efficient, lower temperatures. So Simon Woodward from the industry body UK's District Energy Association, or the UK DEA, said that there's enough heat wasted every day in the UK and from these big industries and other sources that it can heat everyone's home. So the big question is, how do we capture that waste heat and get into the place that we need the heat? So the government is working on a plan right now. They're trying to implement on the plan. They're trying to strategize and plan and they want it to involve in either commissioning or delivering the schemes. So Mr. Woodwell said he would mainly be used for larger buildings, and he argued and he urged a lot of ministers also to adopt a system in which the local authority charges users based on the fair price of energy rather than insisting on 100% return of costs. So because that's what's happening when it comes to investments like this, big investments. When people do invest, what will happen is it'll inevitably cause to people will start trying to take profit from all of this, is what essentially they're trying to say. And people will start looking for ways to earn money from this, that rather than it being treated fairly and people being, treated fairly when it comes to this, fair amount of, like, let's say, for instance, you use so-and-so energy right now, the government or these private companies or places will expect 100% return on this. So this is not the plan. The plan is to make sure that everything is fair. It can be economical for a lot of people. And yeah, this is just something, a lot of people also can benefit from. I mean, 80% of the district is, that is just the forefront of all of these things. And it's just something to look forward to with the Green Nation initiative that the UK is trying to plan and is trying to get the people on board. We're trying to get to net zero by the time 2050 hits. Let's see what it goes. Right now, we're trying to stop a lot of these corporations and a lot of the people in the finance sectors and, from funding these new coal mine projects and petroleum and diesel. So the expectation is to get there by 2050 to get to net zero. So we are at a point where where the whole world will not increase the global warming, the whole climate change, where 1.5 degrees Celsius in the total average temperature will increase. We're trying to prevent that. We're trying to avoid something like that, into a situation like that. So these are just, some of the initiatives that the UK right now is planning to impose. So let's see how it goes. This is just, one of the steps that they're doing. This is just the very beginning of the steps of greener UK. And with that, we are going to be taking a short break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio, RELAKS, with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the things that is happening right now in the UK. And one of that right now is how holiday cottages to get years takings over summer. Yeah, so they're having a great year so far. And because of the recent lifting of the restrictions and easing rather of the restrictions in the country is causing a lot of these places and a lot of these summer cottages to actually gain popularity, and a lot of people are coming to these places right now. And yeah, these holiday-led firms in Wales are predicting a bumper summer, with one saying they have been blown away by the demand. So there's been huge demands when it comes to this. And Greg Stevenson of the Undertouched said some of the 60 properties would take normal year's earnings in a few months. And they said that North Wales Holiday Cottage has also many properties booked until October. So meanwhile, lack of availability in other hotspots would mean more bookings in Powys and Ceredigion, and this is all said by Mid Wales Tourism Chairman. So following the end of the first lockdown in 2020, self-catering occupancy rates in Wales reached 90% in August. So this is just another thing. And so bosses are confident that the figure could be topped this year. And they've been saying, that there are these green shoots, and we are continuing to work with a lot of these sectors as we relax the restrictions. And September rose from 60% in 2018 to 62% in 2019, but fell to 52% in 2020. So amount of, the number of people traveling, especially in 2020, right at that time, 20%, 50% of it would drop. Because, we understand a lot of lockdown, there's a lot of impositions where they were like asking them not to go. There's restrictions based in the country where the people were not allowed to travel out of the country and make sure, they stay indoors is the problem. And all these things are also contributing to the fact, why there is a huge major bump right now, and why people are expecting, why a lot of these hospitalities in the Welsh mainlands are expecting all of these tourists coming in because of trying to keep it indoors. We're trying to keep it home. This is just another benefit for the people. And this is just something crazy going on. And this was partly, like I said, because nobody could travel between April, May, and June, and because of this whole lockdown. However, when restrictions were lifted, the figures reached a 3-year high in August 2020. Occupancy was at least 90%. Yeah, that's right. That's 90%. That the figures are crazy when you think about it. Those are pretty big numbers. And this is all comparison to 88% in August 2019. And in September, the figure was 82% compared to 68% in 2019. So with Wales now at COVID alert level 2, 6 people from 6 different households are allowed to visit pubs, cafes, and restaurants together. So it just shows, they are able to do these things now, with the recent easing of their restrictions. However, people are still not allowed to have visitors from another household. So people can travel, and they can have different meetings of at least 6 different people from households, and they're allowed to visit pubs, but they're not allowed to have visitors from another household inside their houses until they form a bubble with them. And this is just some of the things. And these holiday-led firms are blown away by the surge in these demands. So under the thatch, 82 holiday lets, 3/4 are in Wales. And he said, after a tough winter, blown away by all of these crazy demands for summer 2021, with most properties having total annual sales that now more than make up for the losses of closure during lockdown. And the company specialists in authentic renovations, and he believes he could fill another 50 in July and August. So prices are up across the industry for the peak season. And he added, when cancellation comes in, break resales at higher prices, which goes some way to recovering the losses of the last year. Like I said, people are looking forward to getting out of the house. They're looking forward to, spending their summers out of the house and away from all the drama and the stress. And this is just, another reason why these places are getting a hike right now in their market. And it's good news. It's good news. We were talking about how a lot of these industries were suffering, and it just goes to show right now the summer season, they are earning as much as they can, and they're trying to make up for the losses of last year. So most of their properties right now are being owned by families that live within a 30-mile drive off their rental So most of these people are from close by. They're not that far away, and they are trying to take as much benefit and change of scenery as much as possible. Because think about it, it's been almost a year of pandemic, and yeah, it just goes to show, it explains why a lot of people are traveling and why a lot of people are booking these trips to these places. And even though it is not that far away, so these firm also rents in other European countries, and part of the boom in the Welsh market could be down to a reluctance to book abroad because of the issues such as quarantine, COVID testing, and the UK's government traffic light system, said Mr. Stevenson. So this is just another reason why a lot of people are not traveling abroad as of yet, and why they are the industry right now is seeing such a hike, because a lot of people are, one, it could be fear. The other, it's just too much hassle. If you think about it, like there's the traffic light system that you have to follow. You have to make sure you're quarantined. You have to make sure you do the test. So if you're quarantined, it's because you travel to the amber countries or red countries. You're coming from these red countries. So it's just a lot of hassle. And even if you don't go to these green list countries, it's still going to be a problem. So what is going to happen is you're still going to have to undergo these tests. And, you're going to have two lateral tests, either when you leave the UK and go to these countries, and then over there once you reach there. So it's a total of like eight tests right there, and 16 to 8 tests. So that's a lot of tests right there. You're 2 in the country, when you leave, another 2, and then when you come back, another 2, and it's just crazy. So that's why a lot of people say, this is a lot of hassle. And right now we are trying to avoid this as much as possible. We don't want the hassle. What we're trying to do is we are trying to keep it local. It's better to keep it local. It's easier. It's close by. And it's comparatively cheaper if you do this compared to traveling abroad or traveling to any of these green list countries at the moment. So they did say, that they see unprecedented demands for Ireland. And mostly they said it's because from the Irish clients this year. And there's also been a notice, there's been a lot of this nervous bookings, around the places in Spain, France, and Portugal as well. So North Wales, like that, the North Wales Holiday Cottages, which helps rent hundreds of properties, has seen an upsurge in demands over the past month, with it also having little availability left in July and August. So Director Barbara Griffiths said in March and April they've seen much lower levels of bookings as only people from Wales could travel. So she added, since mid-April, we've seen more or less expected normal occupancy, and going forward, bookings are quite a lot above normal levels. So in recent years, people have booked much later for their summer holidays, but this year they're booking much earlier because they understand, the situation. A lot of people are going to be booking. A lot of people are going to are going to be planning their summer holidays. And yeah, it's just, another thing why they're trying to prepare. They're trying to be prepared right now. They're trying to make sure that they get their bookings on time so they can go and have their holidays. And many of these properties are booked until winter. However, Ms. Griffith said about 2/3 have some availability in September. So that there's also signs that things are picking up for a company that brings tourists into the UK after a tough year for the Staffordshire-based Janet Riddler Travelers. So yeah, her business, is just made up 4,000 in the past 15 months, 4,000 pounds in the past 15 months. With all this is, based with redundancies and 2 staffs on furlough. However, its first tour to Wales since COVID of 30 arrives on the 12th of July. So Mr. Redler has said that it's been quite difficult to put some aspects of the trip together after they've taken bookings in February. And they've been having a lot of these elements of, businesses that don't want to commit and then cancel if restrictions are changed. So it's just a lot of complications, and the groups that have been traveling are undergoing actually a lot of these troubles right now. Is this is just a part of all these things. And is the tourism business getting back to normal? Well, there's been a lot of cancellation though from a lot of people from a lot of countries as well who want to come into the UK. There's also been a lot of cancellations because of fear of restrictions at the moment. But Mid Wales Tourism Chairman Roland Rees Evans believed that people were desperate to get out. Yeah, people are dying. They're thirsting rather to get out and make sure that they enjoy, because it's been like 14 months of life where nobody has been expecting anything, and they've just been stuck at home, being there, stagnating at home, and they are saying that this is very frustrating. And right now, when the opportunity does arise, and when they do get the opportunity to get out, well, they're going to take full advantage of it. And yeah, this is just something that a lot of these people, especially in the local areas, with regards to Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland. These are places where a lot of people will be, traveling and going to their these summer cottages close by. Even though it is close, they're still going to be doing this because, like I said, it's been a long year where people have been stuck at home and they have been fed up and they still want to get out and about and make sure, that they're doing something at least instead of just staying at home and being stuck and stagnating. So yeah, these are just, some of the things that they are doing right now. And yeah, with the whole COVID situation going on, the UK has also been set for stronger post-COVID recovery, is what the OECD has been saying as well. So yeah, looking at the topic at hand like this, they are saying, that right now the UK is set for all this situation, and they are set for, they're being prepared and they're making plans with regards to this. And the UK's economy, they're saying that they're going to recover from the pandemic is going to be even stronger than previously thought. They said, okay, this is what the leading international agencies have said, and organizations for economic cooperations and development says the UK is likely to grow 7.2% in 2021. So that is a marginally high growth right there, and this is one of the reasons. And they're saying from its March projections they expected it to be 5.1. Well, now they're saying it's going to be 7.2. That is a huge margin. And the OECD raised its forecast for global growth to 5.8% compared with the 4.2% it predicted in December. So yeah, the global growth rather is going to be that. And however, though, they've warned that growth would not be shared evenly. So it's going to be very, very localized if you talk about it. And the UK's growth is also going to be the fastest among the large, rich countries. This is what the OECD has been saying. And UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak attributed the strength of the forecast to the success of the UK's vaccine rollout and the government plans for a job. So these are, some of the things why they're saying right now the UK is going to make a good setback, and it's not going to set them back really as much as we think. And they are going to be recovering from this, and they're going to be rapidly moving forward with all of these things. And Rishi Sunak went on to say, he cautioned that with the debt at nearly 100% of GDP, there was a need to ensure public finances remain on sure footing. So that the OECD said prospects for the world's economy had brightened with activity. However, they remain short of what was previously expected. So although they have been saying, okay, the figures are rising and it's getting better, but this is not what we've been expecting, and we can't really think the way the projections are looking, it doesn't look like we'll be able to reach the target that we set by the end of 2022. So yeah, the OECD, they praised, stimulus measures and swift vaccine rollouts in a lot of these rich countries for boosting growth, but said the slow job distribution in many developing countries have threatened to blight their economic progress. And they're saying, this is going to be a mark. This is going to leave a mark. This is going to be trouble. So yeah, a lot of these rich countries are able to do this. A lot of these rich countries are able to make sure, that they get vaccinated. But when it comes to developing countries, there's going to be a problem there. And he said that the recovery would remain uneven and vulnerable to fresh setbacks as long as large proportion of the world's population was not vaccinated. So even though a lot of these rich countries have gotten vaccinated, well, it will cause a setback. It will cause a problem because when you come back down to it, a lot of the population of the world will still not have been vaccinated. So global growth will be led by a strong upturn in the US, where the GDP is forecast to reach 6.9% this year before easing to 3.6% in 2022. So yeah, the OECD has added all of this, and output in China has also been caught up, but emerging market economies, including India, may continue to have large shortfalls in their GDP. And that is also mainly, a lot of these falls, why they're getting these falls is because of the Indian variants and the sudden restrictions in the country right now. And the strong forecast this year for the UK reflects the key role that the vaccination plays in supporting the economic growth and recovery. So it is the fastest growth among the large rich countries. And within the wider G20, it's behind only India and China, but that also reflects the UK rebounding from a downturn that was one of its deepest, one of its worst, actually. So the OECD's report gives a flavor of how countries are performing over the course of the health crisis by setting out how long it expects them to take to get back to pre-pandemic levels. And essentially what they are saying, the OECD's that their report, they're trying to find out, how long a lot of these countries are going to take to get back to that pre-pandemic level of their GDP per capita, their economic activity. For the UK, it's the middle of next year, along with Italy and Canada. So there's a few months ahead of France and Spain, but behind the US, Japan, and Germany. It's also several emerging economies, including China, which will have the first to regain the lost ground. So OECD Secretary General Angel Guerri said that there was urgent need to step up the production and equitable distribution of these vaccines. So there's going to be effective vaccination programs in many countries right now, means that today's economy is looking more promising than any time since the start of this devastating pandemic. But millions right now around the world are getting a jab and still remains a distant prospect. So for them, a lot of these developing countries right now, it's not that easy to get their vaccines. And for them to be even getting vaccines is something, that it'll take a while. It'll take a very, very long while. So the OECD chief economist Lawrence Boone urged stronger international cooperation between nations to help provide poorer countries with resources to vaccinate their population. However, though, income support for people and businesses should continue, but as restrictions eases, there should be better targeted rather when they are needed most, including through retraining and a job placement. So the OECD said support also need to focus on viable businesses to encourage a move away from debt into equity and to create jobs and investment in digitalization. So these are, some of the things right now that, that we have their forecasting, the OECD's forecasting that we need to do. And public debt has also risen, in a lot of these economies as a result of the pandemic. But current low interest rates have been making servicing the debt manageable. So although there's been debt like this, it's being manageable because of the low interest rates right now. And in the UK, while GDP is predicted to return to pre-pandemic levels next year, the OECD warns that increased border costs following Brexit will hit foreign trade. So unemployment is also expected to be at the peak at the end of 2021, with a predicted rise to 6.1% when the furlough scheme ends. So it will reach an average of 5.4% in 2021 and about 2020 levels of 4.5% and 2019 levels of 3.8%. So the OECD right now, they recommend the UK government should maintain support measures until the economy right now is recovering and it's underway and focusing on businesses and sector with the best growth prospects. So the government right now is saying that we have to focus on the things that can bring us profits instead of right now, those things that don't. So we have to find the businesses, we have to focus on these sectors and businesses and make sure they bloom. So then only then can we recover from all of this? And let me know what your thoughts are on the matter. Always hit me up on those numbers, 07852 473 473. Those are the numbers to call. And with that being said, though, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio with me, Nick, giving you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the things that is happening right now in the UK, with what the COVID situation in the country and the number of cases actually, rising, and the government saying that they are prepared for another outbreak. They are prepared, they have already contingency plans on set, and they're saying we can make a big recovery from all of this. It just shows, that right now the situation, drastically changing. We don't know for the better, for the good. For the worse, we don't even know exactly. So we'll have to give it some time before everything falls into place, is what I've been trying to say. And yeah, in case you guys are wondering who this is, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. only here on Real Talk. That's right. If you want to hit us up on those numbers, it is 07852 473 473. Those are the magical numbers. You can feel free to call me up and let me know if you guys have any thoughts on that matter. Always feel free to hit me up, and also check us out on our web, on our social media. You can follow us on Instagram as well at Relax Radio. You can check us out on Facebook. We go live on all these platforms, and also don't forget to download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. But with that, getting back to the issues at hand right now, one of the primary things that the UK is doing, we try to find ourselves where we break stereotypes, and especially one of these stereotypes is gender stereotypes. So primary schools are actually being urged right now to tackle all these these issues right now. So calling girls sweetie or boys mate in primary school perpetuates gender stereotypes, is what a lot of these campaigners are talking about, and this is what they are trying to tackle at the moment. So in a letter to the Education Secretary in England, various groups are actually calling on the government to address language and ideas used in schools. So it is a good way, actually, in my opinion. This is how you start. When you want to build something, you want to change something, you go to the very root. The root of it is, you start changing the children. You make sure that the following etiquettes, the proper discipline. And this is how you can foster, the growth of these children, and that will make them into better individuals, is, what I'm trying to say. And also, looking at all these things, stereotypes limit a lot of children's aspirations and create inequalities, that help fuel gender-based violence, is what, a lot of these are saying. So the government say challenging stereotypes is in its guidance. It's indefinitely in the UK, its guidance. So the letter to the Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, is signed by various groups, including Girl Guiding UK, the Fawcett Society, and the National Education Union. And it says the curriculum, books and language used in schools reinforce ideas of how girls and boys should look and behave. And it suggests, a lot of these schools should actively change and challenge these gender stereotypes from an early age before they become ingrained. And there's been a lot of evidence, to show about all this. And it just shows, how they want to tackle a lot of these issues, and about how, parents are also saying that they're urging schools to do all of these things and make sure, that these are implemented across the country, especially, like I said, when we take these things to the beginning of, like, we bring from the beginning, we start from step one, and step one is in schools. This is the responsibility of a lot of teachers and adults, going into this, when it comes to primary children from these small age groups, this is where you learn. Before it becomes something that is going to be ingrained, we have to make sure that we enforce all these things, and we change and we challenge a lot of these stereotypes, especially gender stereotypes, is one of the things, that they should be doing. And yeah, right now, with all that, these are just one of the things, that I wanted to talk about, especially with regards to primary schools. And yeah, schools are supposed to be, it is a source of education, and this is where you foster and generate, mold a young person's mind. So if you challenge these stereotypes at a very young age, it is going to improve, and the children will not be, limited, especially when it comes to stereotypes. They will break all of these barriers. And this is something, that they are, we should be looking forward to, and we should be practicing a lot, especially to our children. So yeah, these are just some of the things that is, going on right now. And getting back to the topics, though, of the issues right now, the COVID situation in Scotland. Well, the rules may not be eased in some areas until next week is what they are saying right now. So yeah, the situation in Scotland isn't as great as it would appear. So yeah, places like Glasgow and all of that are going actually through a lot of these problems. And yeah, this is just the government saying like, okay, it doesn't look like we can ease any of these restrictions anytime soon. And yeah, COVID restrictions may not be relaxed further until next week in parts of Scotland where infections are rising. And the health secretary has been warning of this, and he's been warning the public, the general public in Scotland right now. This is not something we can do. And under the lockdown easing roadmap, areas in level 2 are scheduled to move down to level 1 on the 7th of June. But Hamza Yusuf said that this would not be possible for areas where COVID cases are giving cause of concern. And he said this could affect locations outside Glasgow, which is only part of Scotland still in level 3. And yeah, he went on that the rest of the mainland Scotland is in level 2, while some islands have already moved down to level 1. So First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has also said, that she is hopeful Glasgow can move down at a level at the end of this week, which will allow, a lot of people to move inside homes and gardens, and alcohol to be served inside bars and restaurants. These are things that a lot of people have missed, and they want to get back into it. And she said, the announcement is due on Tuesday, whether the rest of Scotland can move down to level 1 on the 7th of June, or a step which would allow greater numbers of people to socialize and venues such as soft play centers to reopen. So these are, some of the things that they are looking forward to, and they're saying, okay, well, we'll be able to address these things hopefully in the coming week, and hopefully by Tuesday, when Tuesday comes in, we can be talking about this. These are the things we will be announcing. And Mr. Yusuf also said that right now that there's been a lot of these things, with regards to a lot of these concerns actually. And one of that is that while the impact of the new variants on the NHS will still be assessed, it may be necessary to hold back some of these areas. I mean, he is getting to a realist point where he says, okay, there will be areas, where these places have been infected and have been impacted rather by the new Indian variant and the NHS right now is still assessing all of these and assessing the amount of damages caused. And it may be necessary, though, to hold some of these areas back, the areas that have been affected by this. And in essence, he's trying to say, places like Glasgow should stay in level 3 until further notice, until we can make sure that we can assess this and make sure that not enough of the virus is spread across the country. And he said it may not be the entire country moving to level 1, and he thinks that people would understand where there are rising numbers of cases, where there is a rising test positivity, it may be the case that parts of the country move to level 1, but actually other parts of the country we decide to keep in level 2. And asked if he were referring to Glasgow, he replied, Glasgow, but also, I must be quite frank, there are other parts from the data that continue to give us cause for concern. And right now, these are just, some of the places that they're saying, and one of the highest places right now that has been tested positive and that is above the level 2 threshold, rather, is Renfrewshire. They've tested 278 in the past 7 days. So these are the amount of positive tests. And East Renfrewshire as well, 143. Glasgow City, 815. Dundee City, 150. So, if you check about City of Edinburgh, 401 cases, positive tests in the past 7 days. That's just 1 week. They've been having 401 cases. And yeah, and you check a lot of the other places as well, like South Lanarkshire. And we got, Stirling as well that has 57 cases, and East Ayrshire that's 67 cases in a week. So it shows that there are places actually in Scotland right now that have these problems, that have a number rising of concern, especially when it comes to the COVID situation and the Indian variant with regards to that. And Renfrewshire and East Renfrewshire both currently have case rates higher than Glasgow. So concerns have also been raised, about rising infections in Dundee, which have increased from a low level in a relatively short space of time. So we had a 7-day average case of 50 per 100,000 cases have previously been seen as a threshold for a move, rather. So these are just, for a move to the level 2. And despite a high case rate, because the actual numbers were still relatively low. So yeah, in the past 7 days, city of Edinburgh has seen 401 new cases, while South Lanarkshire has seen 236 positive tests, and North Lanarkshire has also seen 231. So these are just numbers, that show. I mean, for a lot of people, in layman terms, it says essentially that there is a number of cases. There is still a lot of these problems going on, and it's still not quite 100% safe to be going outdoors, to be doing what you want to do, and it's not quite safe for these places to go back from level 2. So these are just above from level 3 to level 2. So Glasgow is just one of the places, that has been affected by this. So in the past 7 days, the city of Edinburgh has seen 401 new cases. Yeah, that's right. And although the Glasgow city continues to have the highest number of cases, 850 in the past week, the numbers have fallen for 4 consecutive days. So Mr. Yusuf said the case rates were not the only metrics being considered in reaching these decisions, with the focus on how the Indian variant, the B.1.617.2, was first identified in India last year, was having an impact on hospital admissions and serious illness. So he went on to say, we cannot give an absolute definitive answer at this stage about what the effects are, but the signs are very, certainly optimistic that although these numbers and these case numbers are increasing, that doesn't necessarily mean and translate to a severe disease. So just because there's a number of cases, it doesn't really mean that the symptoms are going to be serious. So vaccinations from 18 to 29 years old are due to start in the NHS Greater Glasgow Health Board area later this week, and a number of drop-in vaccination clinics have been established. So yeah, the health secretary said that for the end last week suggests the number of did not attend for vaccination appointments had fallen drastically. So actually, a lot of people have been stepping forward and getting their vaccinations done. And they say that this has been a drop, and a number of drop-in vaccinations, like I said, have been established. And they say that although, that a lot of these have been, like, a lot of people who don't come for appointments have drastically dropped. More people are coming forward after reports that as many as 50% had missed the previous weekend. So Mr. Yusuf also went on saying that he remained optimistic, and he's looking forward that plans to have 12,000 football fans at Hampden and a 6,000 capacity Euro 2020 fan zone in mid-June would go ahead. This is still going to happen, and they've worked all really, really close, not just with the football facilities, but perhaps more importantly with clinicians, to say what it is that they can do in what is safe in the current context is, part of all these things. And they're saying, we're doing a lot of hard work, and we are making sure that we get this on and about, and we make sure that, we make the whole thing safe, and we can get people back into these facilities, into these large sporting areas, and we can throw big concerts or music events with whatever regards, or, sports. With regards to sports as well, we focus on all of this. This is, what he is trying to say, and he's trying to reassure the general public. And he said, even with our sometimes not so great Scottish weather, UV light helps to kill off the virus in a way outdoors that it cannot do indoors. So these are just, some of the things that they are talking about with regards to this aspect. And these are, the right now the Scottish government is addressing all this. Like I said, the cases although in Glasgow has been high, it's relatively easing out in comparison to the other places, like the Renfrewshire places are getting, and the city of Edinburgh as well. So these are just a number of reasons why they want to get from level 3, why they can't move from level 3 to level 2 as of yet, because of this whole situation. So one of the things, that a lot of people in Scotland must be really feeling frustrated about, but it's also understandable with the situation and the ongoing, concern for the general public and the safety and the possibility of another spread. So this is just, some of the precautions that they have to take. And these are just some of the sacrifices that the people will have to undertake, is what my concern is as well. So, hey, if you guys have any opinions on this, or if you want to say something with regards to this, hit me up. The numbers 078-52-473-473. Those are the magical numbers. And also don't forget to check us out on our webpage, www.relaxradio.net. And also don't forget to download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. But with that being said, though, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks, with me, Nick, keeping you guys company and keeping you entertained, actually, with all the news that is happening across the UK, trying to keep it 100%. And in case you guys are wondering, in case you guys heard the news, Boris Johnson did marry Carrie Simmons, his fiancée Carrie Simmons, at the Westminster Cathedral. Yeah, that has happened, and they did get married. They were secretly married, actually, in the Westminster Cathedral. So the marriage took place in a small ceremony on a Saturday afternoon. This is what the Downing Street spokesperson has been saying, and yeah, they did get married in secret, and they didn't really. It wasn't big news at that time at Saturday because he didn't make sure. They tried to make sure to keep it on the low low, and yeah, the marriage took place in a small ceremony, and the spokesperson added that the couple would celebrate again with family and friends next summer, with their honeymoon also delayed until then. So the Prime Minister has already started to work. He's returned to work. Yeah, he's back at it. He's back at work. And it's crazy, what he's going on. His work ethic is crazy. He made sure, that he got married this weekend, and now he's back to running the country. And he is the first prime minister to get married while in office in nearly 200 years. Yeah, that shows, it took 200 years for a person to get married while they were prime minister. And also, when you think about it like that, it's the first time any prime minister has faced an issue like the pandemic right now. So yeah, Boris Johnson does have his hands full with the matter at hand. So yeah, recently on Sunday, it was reported with sources that 30 guests were invited to the ceremony at short notice, and the maximum number of attendees allowed under COVID restrictions in England. So yeah, a small number of church officials were involved in preparations for the Catholic ceremony, which was officiated by Father Daniel Humphreys. And although Mr. Johnson, 56, had been married twice before, the Roman Catholic Church can allow divorcees to remarry if the previous marriages were outside the Roman Catholic Church. And Boris Johnson likes to avoid talking about his private life. He's been very secretive about it. He's more of an introvert when it comes to that. And he's declined to answer questions on topic for the past few years. And it can't have been easy, to keep yesterday's wedding between a former journalist and someone who works in public relations under wraps. And but it seems to have taken almost everyone in Westminster by surprise. So people were surprised that something like this happened, especially in a pandemic situation. For them to be getting married is just crazy. And it's great to see that they could actually be doing something like this. And and such was the desire, for them to keep it down, that Downing Street only officially confirmed it happened on Sunday morning, the day after the wedding. So at that time, nobody really knew this happened. Nobody really found out until the very next day. So Christopher Lamb, the Rome correspondent for the Catholic sources, said that they will be feeling that why are some people who are divorced allowed to be married in the church and others not? And I think that's where the church, can look at its current rules and see how it can become more welcoming. And it's been welcoming to Boris Johnson, so why not others? So Father Mark Drew, assistant priest at St. Joseph's Church in Penketh, Warrington, said he previously had to tell Catholic couples going through a divorce they are not able to remarry in the church. And it looked to them rightly or wrongly as if the church is applying rather double standards. And I do fear that this decision does make the church look bad. So like I said, Boris Johnson was previously divorced twice, and for him to get married in the church, it is an issue of concern with regards to all of these things, and people are worried about it, and they are saying, hey, how come there's double standards applied when a person is of this big status in the world? It doesn't make him any better than me, though. So why is he getting different treatment compared to the rest of us? Is the matter what they are trying to say? And Father Mark Drew, assistant priest at St. Joseph's Church in Penketh, said that all of this, they had to tell all these things to a lot of couples as well. And just one official photograph has been released the day after the wedding, showing the couple in the garden in Downing Street in the hours following the ceremony. However, Conservative MP James Cleverly shared a very different photograph of the newlyweds enjoying their garden reception in a Saturday sunshine with decorations and a table of refreshments visible in the background. So yeah, at this stage in the day's proceedings, Mrs. Johnson is seen barefoot and her husband has dispensed with his jacket and tie. I mean, it's a rare picture to be even seeing Boris Johnson without a jacket or his tie. So yeah, it shows, that they did look like, they got married on Saturday and they seem really happy about it. It's great to see. And Downing Street did not reveal any details of who was invited and whether any of Mr. Johnson's cabinet colleagues were amongst the guests. So several politicians have congratulated the couple, including Home Secretary Priti Patel, Health Secretary Matt Hancock, Vaccines Mr. Nadeem Zahawi, and Work and Pension Secretary Teresa Coffrey. And Ms. Patel wrote on Twitter that many congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and wishing both much love and happiness. So musicians were pictured leaving number 10 on Saturday night as well. There's a bunch of musicians as well leaving that place, and yet they were carrying instruments and they were seen around that vicinity. And members of the public were asked to leave Westminster Cathedral just after 1:30 BST was what the reports is saying. So the new Mrs. Johnson, who has confirmed that she will be taking her husband's surname, wore a white dress to exchange vows with the Prime Minister, and her wedding dress was designed by Athens-based Christos Kastarelos, who was studied at the London College of Fashion and describes his work as being inspired by the spirit of ancient Greek philosophy. And if you do look at her dress, it does show a little bit of inspiration from Greek philosophy. And the last prime minister to get married, though, in office was Robert Banks Jenkinson's in the 1822. So yeah, that's almost 200 years ago. So nearly 200 years since the last prime minister got married while he was, in cabinet. So it's crazy. And Mrs. Johnson used to work in the Conservative Party's press office, which she joined in 2010. And 2 years later, they worked on Mr. Johnson's successful campaign to be reelected as mayor in London. So she was with him for a very long time as well. And she became the party's head of communications before leaving in 2018 to work in public relations for marine conservation organization Oceana. So Miss Johnson then became head of communications for conservation group, the Aspine Falls in January. So they were officially married and they were officially revealed to be engaged, back in February 2020. And yes, that's when she said she was pregnant, and their son Wilfred was born last April. So Mr. Johnson and his previous wife, Marina Wheeler, announced in 2018 that they were divorcing, though, after 25 years of marriage. So it just shows, right now, it's great news to see that Boris Johnson is getting, he got married. And in a time like this where we think, okay, these type of things rarely do happen, a lot of people do get the opportunity. And why not get married even though there is pandemic going on is, a lot of people are saying. And it's easier too, you bring less of a guest. If it was some other day, most probably the media would have had a field day. It would have been crazy. But because of a lot of these restriction rules and all of that, it just shows, why it was on the wraps, why it was under the wraps, and it was not as big as you would expect it to be. So yeah, these are just, some of the things that has happened. And over the past Saturday. So it's congratulations to Boris Johnson, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and his wife, Mrs. Johnson, as well, Carrie Johnson as well. So I hope that both of them have an amazing future ahead of them. And with the situation, hopefully by the time 21st of June does arrive, the situation can get better and they can find a decision on whether they should actually completely get restrictions out of bounds right now in the UK. Let's see how it goes, though, as we go along. Anyways, with that being said, we are going to be taking a quick, short break, and we will be right back after this. Back to the show. This is Relax Radio, Relaks, with none other than me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the things that is happening across the globe and in the UK as well, especially in the UK, with the situation. Like I said, Boris Johnson, they get married recently. And we have a lot of these summer holiday homes that are actually booming right now. They're seeing the market rise in their properties, and these are just some of the things that is happening in the UK. With also the COVID situation going on, and it's still ongoing situation in the UK. There have been places like in Scotland where they're not really gonna be they're not gonna be leveling it down a little. Yeah, so Glasgow and places like that, Renfrewshire, are going to be staying in level 3. So these are just, some of the things that is happening across the UK right now. And taking a look at, what is going on. We are, like I said, we are generations of humans right now that is going through a lot of these things. And recently, mud cylinders have been revealing, humans' impacts on Earth began earlier than we actually thought. So yeah, it's way, way more earlier than we've actually thought. I mean, ever get that question in your mind, how long have we been here as individuals? Well, if you ever did think of something like that, you can always let me know on our numbers, 078-52-473-473. That's right. You can feel free to call us up. Let us know what your thoughts and opinions are. How long have humans actually been roaming the Earth? And what have we been doing? What was the first human's first thing or first thought or anything like that? You can feel free to let me know. And I'll make sure to address those things as we go along in the show. And like I was talking about, if you also do check us out on our social media pages, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we are also pretty big on YouTube as well. So make sure you guys check us out on our channel. We go live on that. And also don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter as well. We keep you up to date with the latest tweets. And yeah, with that though, also don't forget you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. But with that being said, though, getting back to the topic at hand. So right now, scientists have believed that a lot of these mud cylinders show that the actual impact of humans on Earth, rather, has been longer than we've actually expected. So scientists have been uncorking long thin cylinders of soil from wetlands and riverbeds in an attempt to look back in time and understand the impact humans have had on nature. So the results have made them radically rethink, previous assumptions and thoughts about when this all started. So these are just, some of the things that is going on. So analyzing these core muds and looking at the pollen that has settled in each layer has brought an entirely new understanding of when human activity started changing vegetation. So scientists had expected to see the first signal of human intervention a few centuries ago, when landscapes really started to transform during the Industrial Revolution. But pollen records from these mud cores research have led them to radically readjust that assumption and track our species' first impact on nature and the natural world back to 4,000 years ago. So it's a discovery that has major implications for the future of forests and other landscapes. So yeah, these are just, some of the things that has been addressed. And the evidence for all of these grand theories exists, in a tiny grain of pollen that fell and settled in layer upon layer of mud over the centuries. By carefully extracting that mud, a lot like cork, from a wine bottle, if you would like to think, and analyzing the fossil pollen at the different depths, researchers have and were able to carbon date each mud layer to work out what grew when and where. So yeah, that's some amazing stuff by scientists. So yeah, looking at all these things, these are the steps forward, and these research, are going to be helping with a lot of protection for the environment. So many conservationists support the protection of forests, leaving them alone and to intact, to do their job of giving wildlife a home and keeping lots of carbon locked away. And we may have changed our planet so radically that forests will need hands-on help simply to survive. That's why, the damage has been in such a massive level that it will need human intervention to survive. So Dr. Overpeck explains that there's been some climate change already baked in, and most of the old trees in our forests were seedlings when it was cooler. So we need to put seedlings that will thrive when it is warmer. I mean, this also reminds me of that book. I don't know how many of you have read it, but yeah, there was this particular chapter in Lord of the Rings where they talked about the impact of what the humans did to destroy a lot of these forests and how it was a very beautiful and luscious place. So thinking back to that actually gets me thinking, it's not quite as different as you'd picture. Right now, the situation, over the years is not as drastically different from what a fiction book like that says. It shows, the impact of the human race on the whole nature and the forestry. And it's crazy, how we've come far, how much we've come, and how much we've affected actually the growth of a lot of these plants and forestry, and how with global warming contributing to it, how much we've affected it to such a way that there is going to be issues in the next couple of years if we don't do changes now. It's just these are just some of the things that is being addressed. And with things like that, it makes you wonder, what are we going to do? How are we going to be stepping forward towards this? And what is the future going to be holding in store for us? And these are just, some of the things that, that will get you thinking, to this particular topic. And speaking of all of these futures, right now, the uncertain future of Britain is with its offices. So they're not quite sure how that's going to work. There's been an uncertain future of Britain offices right now, and there's been a lot of these issues, what with the furloughing of employees, and on top of that, a lot of people having their issues. At least a lot of people were hit before the pandemic hit, and there has been, at least before the pandemic, everyone started working from home. So before that, not a lot of people were working from home. So from paper supplies and slow to cleaning, maintenance, and catering firms, home industries are forced on providing home-based, office-based companies with what they need to keep working from home. So what is the future of such office supplies firms when large numbers of people are expected to continue to work remotely at least half the time when the pandemic is finally over? So, well, this is tipped to result in many companies shutting large offices and switching to smaller ones. And for some, to get rid of their office altogether. So the cleaning industry in the UK is almost invisible, yet it employs 1 million people across 65,000 firms, worth 54 billion pounds to the UK economy. So according to the industry body, the British Cleaning Council, about a third of that figure applies to offices. So with the remainder being healthcare, the hotels, restaurants, pubs, and factories. So it just shows, if offices are going to be shut down, there's going to be a loss. A third of the figure is going to be lost. So Yvonne Taylor is the global head of cleaning at the OCS Group, the international facilities that manage, giants with a turnover of 1 billion pounds a year. She says that while there are many fewer in offices to clean in the future, the upside of the pandemic for the cleaning industry is that now they've seen a lot more as experts. So when it comes to cleaning, so while they have been concerned that some companies may cut their cleaning budgets due to financial pressures, she says that the response to the coronavirus has brought more professionalism to the cleaning industry. And she explains, often these office carpets don't need vacuuming every day, but touch points like light switch and door handles most certainly now do need regular cleaning. So it shows, these are things that right now we took a lot of these people for granted. We took a lot of these workers for granted. And now that they are actually one of the first, they are actually essential workers, if you think about it. And they're very, very important people for times like this. When it comes to the hospital, they need to do the maintenance, they need to do the cleaning. So these are very important people as well. So they say it brings in a lot of professionalism to the whole cleaning industry. So the solution, she says, is to be set strict cleaning specifications and then use these technologies and data to provide evidence that confirms that they are delivering. So Yvonne also expects to see much more of robots and new machineries and more training for cleaning staff, including the introduction of an apprenticeship scheme for the industry. So she believes, that the need for this additional training and technology is explained by the new requirement for rotational cleaning. So we now rotate our disinfectants to safeguard against microbial resistance. We don't know if COVID will build up a resistance to certain disinfectants. So while the cleaning industry may have smaller and perhaps fewer offices to clean, it is going to have to work hard to keep them safe. So this is just, just because that they are not going to be having enough of offices to clean doesn't mean that their work is going to be easy for them. It's still going to be cut out for them. There's still a lot of work to be done. So despite, a lot of these offices across the UK being thin on staff over the past year, well, there has been, a lot of firms that say that the overall sales remain steady due to a big rise in demand for COVID protection equipment. Or in case you guys are wondering, it's the PPE. These are the things, that the people require. So they've done, a lot of these companies and a lot of these firms are running a lot of these big supplies, when it comes to the PPE protective gear and equipments. So it shows, that they are also getting on with the business and they're making sure that they make an income as well. However, for some companies, COVID has been hitting them like a brick wall. So the cleaning industry, these maintenance industries and, the supply industries might be taking a proper benefit or reaping in some kind of benefit from all of this. But there have been companies that have been hit really hard by this. And online platforms Feeders delivers foods to offices through its core business cloud catering, allowing offices without a canteen to order in restaurant food for their staff. So they say, Feeders reach by delivering to employees' homes instead. And a logistical nightmare is what Mr. Banks has been saying. This is, they're talking about all of this. And Linda Banks has been saying that Peters, the head of international development and strategic projects, says that looking at all this is just a logistic nightmare. Thinking about all, how many people they're supposed to cater to is just crazy, and they have to rethink all their operations. So the business has now started to pick up, but there has been at the start of this year, they're saying they've been having more clients and still saying that they don't want even to talk to anyone because of the issues right now with this. So these are just, some of the businesses that have been affected by the pandemic. When you look into it, a lot of these companies are struggling to make sure they get on their toes, get on their feet. And like I said, it comes down to the spectrum. There's always one side of the spectrum where some companies are actually benefiting from this, and other companies are actually struggling from this and are being hit very, very hard. So these are just some of the things, that needs to be addressed. And hopefully the government can find ways, where they can actually help these people, help a lot of these workers as well, reap in from these benefits and make sure, they support them with the situation until the whole thing dies down and until the whole pandemic eases out and we can get back to normal. There are companies that will require this, especially when it comes down to the hospitality companies. These companies as well, this industry right now is facing a real large hit. Although there has been increase in per capita gain, you have to also realize that they are still being affected. These are local companies right now that are benefiting from this. But then when you check for international travels, other countries with their hotels, they are still struggling and they're still tethering on the edge, and they still need to get back to it before, they still need to wait until they get all the people back during peak season. These are just the seasons that they want to get back. With the pandemic going on and restrictions and the traffic light system, it doesn't look like it's too bright of a future right now for the hospitality industry. They're still getting there, though. Hopefully they can get back on their feet and they can bounce back from all the situation. And with that being said, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here. But don't worry, I'll be catching you guys again tomorrow. You guys can catch me again tomorrow on same time, same place, only here on Real Talk with me, Nick. And with that, catch you guys tomorrow. Peace and much love.